evening from New York. I'm Lawrence O'Donnell, in for Keith Olbermann. We asked former Democratic Congressman Eric Massa to appear on tonight's program with me, but he said no. I may be the only guy Eric Massa has turned down, because Glen Beck asked him to appear on his program earlier tonight, and Massa said yes. He gave new details about previous hijinks, essentially rescinded his claim that Democratic leaders forced him out, but mostly what he did was make Glen Beck apologize for his entire program. Not hyperbole. You'll see it. Just yesterday, Rush Limbaugh, Beck, and others said how important it was to listen to Massa. Limbaugh backtracked today, saying, "All I knew was this guy was telling great stories about Rahm Emanuel." But then news stories emerged today that the House Ethics Committee has been investigating Massa, not just for comments, but allegations he groped 3 staffers and behaved inappropriately with interns. Massa today denied wrongdoing, but said his departure from Congress, which he had portrayed as part of the Democrats' plan to pass health care, was in fact his own fault.
Can I just start off with something?
Sure.
I wasn't forced out. I forced myself out. I failed. I didn't live up to my own codes. I own this. I take full and complete responsibility for my misbehavior, and goodness only knows what allegations they're going to throw at me. There's even new ones today, and we'll talk about that. I'm not blaming anybody. Now they're saying I groped a male staffer. Yeah, I did. Not only did I grope him, I tickled him until he couldn't breathe, and then 4 guys jumped on top of me. It was my 50th birthday. It was kill the old guy. You can take anything out of context. By the way, we all live...
Was your wife at that one?
No, this isn't a townhouse. We all live together, all the bachelors and me, because nobody can afford in Washington, D.C. to pay the outrageous rents. My chief of staff had a conniption and said, "You can't live there. That's not congressional." So I moved into my office. But it's true. And here's the point, Glenn. No matter what I say, it doesn't matter. If somebody on my staff was offended, was uncomfortable, thought I was inappropriate, I own that. It's why I resigned. We all signed a code that I wrote, a code of ethics, in January, because we wanted to tighten the ship up. That's why I resigned. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I own this misbehavior. It doesn't make any difference what my intentions were. It's how it's perceived by the individual who receives that action. And we set it up so that it could be completely...
Your name is at stake here.
And that...
No. Not just your name.
Everybody's name.
Your children's
That's
name.
right.
Okay? So there's something called honor. You are a Navy guy.
So the only other
honor.
Glenn, the only thing I do is slit my wrist and bleed out here on the... I'm telling you, I was wrong. I was wrong. I should have never allowed myself to be as familiar with my staff as I was. I never translated from my days in the Navy to being a congressman. Right. But I did not. Let me be very clear.
I don't know what tickle fights in the Navy. I've never been in the Navy. I don't know what tickle fights in the Navy.
Let me show you something.
You're going to show me tickle fights?
I'm going to show you a lot more than tickle fights. You can't. I don't know if you. That's a crossing the line ceremony.
Can you get this?
That's a crossing the line ceremony in 1983. If you were to take this out of context today.
I don't know if you can show that. You really, yeah.
But can you imagine transporting back to this today? It looks like an orgy in Caligula.
Maybe he should have tickled Glen Beck. Glen Beck bet his entire show on Eric Massa and lost. As you saw, Beck strived mightily to recruit Massa to fight the evil powers Beck world sees at work in this country, but face to face with the man he himself invited on to blow the whistle on all that corruption, Beck failed to get any evidence of it.
Is there anything new to his charges of corruption? We've told you about corruption on this program over and over and over again. Do you believe what he says about corruption in Washington? This is where I want you to go.
Okay.
You tell me something that I don't know about corruption. Do you believe what he's saying about corruption? The other part of it is corruption. Do you believe what he says about corruption? You claim that the system is corrupt. I agree with you. Tell me something about the unions and how the unions are working, or I don't care. So any kind of corruption. You have talked about corruption, but we all complain about corruption. Is there anything specific that you have?
I'm telling you what happened.
Corruption, and you don't really have anything except what I say. Make a blood shoot out of my eyes. Okay.
In fact, Beck not only failed to substantiate his conspiracy theories, but when he asked what people can do to rid America of the evil he sees, Massa could not have disappointed Beck more.
Tell us what you know. Make a difference now. Pick up a shovel and show us where to throw the dirt.
So the most important thing that people can do is to get involved. I mean, it's that simple.
No.
And vote.
You are in. No.
So okay, go ahead.
Please don't be a commercial.
All right.
Everybody knows that.
All right.
People, you're in. You claim that the system is corrupt. I agree with you.
Demand that we do one thing in Congress, and that's change campaign finance reform, because nothing else matters until we do that. Until we do that, nothing will change.
And that was it. But with still almost half an hour to fill, Beck grew desperate and openly begged for dirt on Rahm Emanuel. Here's what happened next, straight through to the end of the show.
Did he threaten, harass, or intimidate you?
He made it very clear that I'd better vote with the president.
Did he do it in a threatening or intimidating or harassing?
Well, I wasn't intimidated because, you know, how do I look like someone's going to intimidate? So I did not. I actually took it to be more humorous, like, you got to be kidding me.
Okay.
But then again, he and I are not friends. By the way, and I owe him an apology. I do. Because on my radio show, I went over the top. I said he'd tie his kids to the railroad to get a vote. He wouldn't do that. He'd tie my kids to the railroad to get a vote, but maybe not his. And so in hyperbole, I was guilty. I went over the top. Enough said on that.
America, I'm going to shoot straight with you. I think I've wasted your time. I think this is the first time I have wasted an hour of your time, and I apologize for that. Because I think we could have spent a lot less time you backtracking a lot. You're a lot.
I'm not backtracking. I'm telling you what happened.
Corruption, and you don't really have anything except what I say. You're now apologizing to Rahm Emanuel.
That was sarcastic, Glenn.
Okay.
Did you get that?
I didn't. No, I didn't. But
I said he'd tie my children to the railroad tracks.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Listen, Rahm Emanuel is very good at making enemies. And he's not very good at making friends. And that's one of the reasons why this administration is having such a hard time getting things done, because what has to be done now deals a lot with open dialogue and consensus building and compromise. And you can't compromise when someone's coming at you with a finger in your chest. You simply can't do that. There is no compromise. It's my way or the highway. I once had someone tell me, you've got to vote with the president. This is the president's first piece of legislation. And I said, the president didn't vote for me.
Congressman, former Congressman,
Eric,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
My best to you and your sweet wife and your children. Back in a second. This is why I said, I'm sorry I've wasted your time. We learned a lot, I think, but what we learned I don't think affects you at all. From New York, good night, America.
Let's bring in MSNBC political analyst and group-tickling expert Howard Fineman. He's also the senior Washington correspondent and political columnist for Newsweek. Howard, it seems like Glen Beck really did meet his match today. The craziest guy at Fox meets the craziest man in the Congress on live TV for an hour, and nothing happened?
I actually think the White House thought that something did happen. Because, as a result of this show especially, you know, the hopes that Rush and Beck and others had to kind of somehow use Massa as a battering ram to try to destroy the credibility of the White House on health care, it didn't happen.